So it's nice to meet you all. So I'm Leah Linton and I'm based at the University of Exeter, so down in Devon. And I am part of the NIHR, so the National Institute of Health and Care Research. And I'm part of their Biomedical Research Centre. And then I work a lot with Rachel and Ange at the MRC, where they've got their Centre of Medical Mycology, so where they look at a range of different fungal infections. And my PhD project isn't lab-based, so I look specifically at involving patients and the public in all medical mycology research, including aspergillosis research. And so I've just started in October, so that's currently what I'm looking at. So I kind of look at an overview, including aspergillosis, but just not specifically, which I thought I should highlight just based on the agenda. So I'll get going in. So thank you very much for inviting me to talk today. I know it's a little bit last notice, but it's very nice to meet you all. So I explained a little bit about myself, doing introductions, and about my research project, so medical mycology, so the whole of fungal infections, including aspergillosis. And so we're looking at trying to identify opportunities to develop strategies to help involve patients in different types of fungal infection research, so whether that's preclinical and lab-based, or whether that's looking more in clinical trials. We hope to get more antifungals, sort of looking at different places and where it might be best suited to involve patients at different steps. So I started in October, so I'm based, I work with Rachel and Ange and the researchers based separately in the labs, but I also work with a lot of researchers as well that have sort of background in doing public and patient involvement in different fields. So sort of drawing a bit on their expertise, as well as public and patient involvement isn't a greatly established field, especially with sort of literature in different fields. There's sort of more support surrounding that. So I sort of have a mix of two different supervision teams and support, which is really great. So I'm just going to go over a little bit about the project as an overview. So it's still very much in development. This started a couple of months ago, but I'll just run through a little bit about it. So I'll start with patient and public involvement. So apologies if you've already heard about this before, and go over the definitions. So according to the NIHR, it's looking at active partnerships with patients and the public. So it doesn't have to be patient, it could be a carer, or it could be someone representing service users. So it's quite a broad term, although it seems quite defined. And we're looking at sort of involving people in research rather than to, about, or for them. So rather than participating in a clinical trial or so, they're part of the research process and will collaborate with researchers throughout the entirety of a project in different stages. I'll talk a little bit more about how we're planning to do this in the PhD project in a minute in our advisory group. So public and patient involvement can be really important for researchers. It helps make their research more relevant and more useful to patients, which is ultimately what it's for. And so the aim of this project is we're trying to identify places where this would be a good fit to do so, and also what could we do to support researchers, what do patients want researchers to consider when trying to involve them, or how could we best do so. It's trying to marry them both up together so that we can hopefully come out with a toolkit at the very end. So we're currently working on a literature review, trying to find any evidence we can find about involving patients in mycology research. So there's not an abundance compared to other fields. That's something that we're currently working on at the moment. And then hopefully we're going to use that to help inform running some interviews. So we're going to do 2 sets of interviews with researchers. So lab-based researchers, clinical researchers, and also with patients to get their perspectives on where researchers think they could involve patients, but also where patients think that they should be involved, and where would be a natural fit and how best to approach people. And obviously a really amazing support group for aspergillosis, but some other fungal conditions don't have as much support or networks. That's quite a key problem when trying to get people involved in research. So that is something that we're hoping that can help address. And then we're hoping to use the interviews and then the review together to develop a toolkit which could be used for aspergillosis research and other fungal infections that researchers could use to help standardise how they involve people into research and make it easier and more accessible for researchers to do so, and hopefully involve and encourage more research groups to involve patients in their research. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit now about our advisory group that we are recruiting for. So we are currently looking for about 2 to 3 members to join as in an advisory group as part of the project. And so we're sort of looking to set this up in the near future. So there's no specific skill set needed to join the group, but there'll be a full briefing and we can sort of provide any training that's needed. And we're particularly interested in working with patients or carers that have lived experience of a fungal infection. There's no specific disease and a whole range of fungal infections, and or individuals that are interested in fungal infections generally, or might have had some experience doing public and patient involvement or in research generally. And so we're looking for those to take place sort of every other month for approximately 1 to 2 hours, and they'll be online like this on Teams, or they'll be on Zoom, sort of based on whatever preference. And it's quite a flexible arrangement in a sense of there'll only be about 2 to 3 other members. It'll sort of be whatever timing wise, it's quite flexible, can sort of find a consensus when's the best time to meet. So we're currently looking at setting that up, and all the contributors will be paid for each meeting, and there'll be an enhanced rate if there's any preparation work before the meeting to make sure that we cover that. And there'll be a supplement for online resources too. And I've got some more information I can share if anyone's interested about the logistics and things like that. But we're looking sort of to have the group in place over the next 3 years. So the project's due to complete autumn 2028, which seems a while away now, but that's what we are that's what we're looking for. And some examples of where we think that our advisory could be really important in is sort of the overall project plan. So we're still figuring this out with the wider research team, and continually throughout sort of checking what's going well, what we think we could do more of, sharing thoughts on the literature review. So developing a protocol, so the set of instructions first about how we're going to go about doing it, and any findings that we find from pulling that all together, and thinking if it's in, for example, bacterial research and how they've involved people, how could we make that appropriate for fungal research. And also have some key project applications that we have to do, so thinking about things like ethics approval and just refining documents such as that. So the meetings will be fairly relaxed, and there might be some that there's certain deadlines that we have to submit things for, but they'll be fairly just a chat to see what's going on with the project and just what we think could work better. And then a really important part for the advisory group will be helping set up the interviews with patients, so helping design the questionnaires and also thinking how best to recruit patients. So that can be quite a challenging part, especially with a lot of the preclinical research and trying to do involvement in that area. Sometimes there's not always brilliant support networks, and it'd be hard to find people. So that is currently what we are recruiting for at the moment. And if you would be interested, or if you know anyone else who might potentially be interested, I've popped my email on the screen, and I can send over sort of an information leaflet that we've got that has more details about the logistics of how everything works. And yeah, if there's anyone has any other questions about PPI or just involvement in any sort of fungal aspergillosis or other fungal infections, would be very interesting to hear. And yeah, feel free to drop me an email if anyone has any questions.